You gotta rise up. You got a second chance to dance. You gotta rise up. Our revenge is sweet, it is in your feet. You gotta rise up. Show 'em how we roll on the dance floor. You gotta rise up. Like a phoenix through the flame. You gotta rise up. That's how you get on top. That's how you stay on top. You gotta rise up. When they eliminate, you gotta levitate. You gotta rise up. When they give you pain, you gotta up the game. You gotta rise up. Like a phoenix through the motherfucking flames. Now take your things, come, let's go. When no one has gone before, I'll see you out there on the floor, and everyone wants some more. You gotta rise up. You got a second chance to dance. You gotta rise up. Our revenge is sweet, it is in your feet. You gotta rise up. Show 'em how we roll on the dance floor. You gotta rise up. Like a phoenix through the flames. You gotta rise up. That's how you get on top. That's how you stay on top. You gotta rise up. When they eliminate, you gotta levitate. You gotta rise up. When they give you pain, you gotta up the game. You gotta rise up. Like a phoenix through the motherfucking flames. Now take your things, come, let's go. When no one has gone before, I'll see you out there on the floor, and everyone wants some more. This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home?
This is how I roll. This is how I roll. This is how I roll.
trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you to take me home? This is how I roll. Can I trust in you?
This is how I roll with my friends. This is how I roll with my is how I roll with my friends. The friend is my friend. This is how I roll with my friends.
This is how I roll. This is how I roll.
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix, you can create your own professional website.
Planet Dolan. From an obsessive clean freak to a psycho who put a cat in a washing machine, the Planet Dolan crew reenact some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the most frustrating things our roommates have ever done. I'm Danger Dolan's mysterious brother, Zaraganbar, and today, I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Asia13. When Melissa first started college, she moved into a terrible share house. She lived in a dark, creepy basement and her room was a Harry Potter style cupboard under the stairs. The basement had a makeshift door with no lock, a window that wouldn't close, and no electrical sockets. What made it even worse was the landlady lived there too and would store her dirty bike in Melissa's room. Every morning Melissa would start her day by tripping over that damn bike. Then there was the time the landlady spent money that Melissa had left out for the gas and electricity bills on cigarettes. Because the bills never got paid, the power and hot water ended up going off while Melissa was in the middle of a shower. Even though it was her own fault, the horrible landlady actually blamed Melissa for this. As you can imagine, Melissa didn't stay there for long. Number 9 was submitted by Raven Queen 1. Shima's roommate had an explosive temper. He got angry about stupid things like running out of milk and would smash up everything around the house. Even when he calmed down, he refused to clean up his mess or replace what he'd broken. One time he even yelled at Shima for not cleaning his mess up properly. Eventually, Shima had no choice but to ask him to leave. He turned into an overgrown toddler and went on one last rampage around the apartment. Fortunately, Shima filmed this and took the evidence to her landlord and the police. Number 8 was submitted by Windy's son. When Ghost Toast was younger, he lived in a share house with his cat and one roommate. The roommate made it obvious that she hated cats, so Ghost Toast's kitty avoided her. One day the roommate took it upon herself to clean Ghost Toast's room. She grabbed a pile of dirty clothes from under his bed, put them in the washing machine and put it on a low cycle. She'd also picked up Ghost Toast's cat, who often slept under the bed. She claims she didn't realize the cat was in the pile, but that's obviously cat-hating bullshit. Ghost Toast heard his beloved kitty meowing in distress and raced into the laundry to rescue it. He took the poor thing out of the washing machine and raced straight to the vet to treat its head injury. Luckily the cat survived and eventually gave birth to 9 kittens. Ghost Toast's roommate, on the other hand, was thrown out on the street. Number 7 was submitted by Toasty Tony. One time Tolop had to fly interstate to visit his mum. He told his roommate to look after their apartment while he was gone and specifically said no parties, as his roommate's parties always got way out of hand. Unfortunately, when Tolop was at the airport waiting for his flight, he realized he'd left his ticket at home. He had to race back to his apartment where he found 50 drunk strangers partying in his living room. Tolop yelled, "Get out!" and marched into his roommate's room. His roommate was drunk and naked, even though Tolop had only been gone for like 2 hours. Tolop went to get his ticket and found his entire room was trashed. His plane ticket had been ripped into pieces and scattered all over the floor. Needless to say, Tolop missed his flight because of this. The next day he made his roommate clean the whole apartment from top to bottom. Number 6 was submitted by the Texas Land Manatee. Andy and her boyfriend have the most annoying roommate ever. He always rearranges their things and does super loud and inappropriate things. Every morning when he makes his breakfast, he slams the fridge and cupboard doors 5 or 6 times. And late at night when everyone is asleep, he slams the bathroom cabinet door many times. He also has no concept of personal space and often just walks in on Andy when she's changing or being intimate with her boyfriend. He doesn't even realize he's being inappropriate when he does this. He just stands there awkwardly making conversation. Andy can't wait until this creepo moves out. Number 5 was submitted by Conveniently So. One day Emoji moved in with an old guy who was renting out his apartment online. Emoji had spent years living with loud, messy young people, so he was looking forward to having a roommate who was quiet and tidy. Be careful what you wish for. At first things went okay, but then the old guy revealed his inner crazy. It turned out he was completely obsessed with cleaning and would lecture Emoji about it every single day. Emoji considers himself a tidy person, but this guy treated him like he was a total slob. Every time Emoji touched something like a drawer or a door handle, the old guy would yell and force him to wipe it down with a sterilized cloth. If Emoji took a shower or used the sink, his crazy roommate would make him wipe down every single droplet of water. Sometimes he'd wake Emoji in the middle of the night just to tell him about a speck of dirt he'd forgotten to clean. Emoji no longer lives there, but he's still traumatized by the memories. Sometimes he wakes in terror after dreaming about sponges and cleaning products. Number 4 was submitted by Lady Lollipop. Honeybits has 3 roommates, 2 who are awesome and 1 who's an inconsiderate slob. Even though she's a full-grown adult, this horrible roommate doesn't know how to wash dishes, vacuum, shop for groceries, do laundry, or even change a frickin' toilet roll. She constantly steals her roommate's food and barges into their rooms without knocking. But the thing that frustrates Honeybits the most is that she's never once taken out the garbage, even though she walks right past the garbage room whenever she leaves the apartment. One day Honeybits got really sick and had to stay home from work. She told her roommates she would be sleeping all day and not to disturb her. But sure enough, Honeybits' horrible roommate barged into her room carrying 2 big bags of stinky garbage. She dropped the bags on the floor, putting bin juice everywhere, and said,
"Hey, Honeybits, take these to the garbage room. I'm going for Starbucks."
Honeybits gave her the evilest stare anyone has ever given. Her roommate's face went completely pale and she said,
Okay, maybe I'll do it then.
Number 3 was submitted by Captain Harry Buttbeard. My brother is a nice guy. When he was 19, he let a girl stay with him who was down on her luck. He didn't try anything pervy or anything. She slept on the couch while he slept in his bed. Things went smoothly during the day, but at night they got a little weird. Every once in a while, Dolan would wake up in the night to see this girl standing in his doorway. She would just watch him. Dolan casually brushed it off, but he still found it creepy as hell. One day he pretended to stay asleep to see what she did. While peeking slightly, he saw her take off her pajama pants, squat down, and take a huge shit in his doorway. Dolan was absolutely stunned. It smelled so bad. When she was finished, she seemed to snap out of her weird trance and hurried to clean it up before anyone noticed. He couldn't figure out who would do this. Needless to say, she didn't stick around for long after that. Number 2 was submitted by Poofy Bird Design. A few semesters ago, Pandora had a college roommate who was the president of the school's only sorority. Things went okay at first, but then the roommates started holding sorority meetings in their dorm room. These would go on until 3 AM, making it impossible for Pandora to sleep. Their dorm was always full of frat boys, and no matter what Pandora said, the roommate refused to stop. Eventually, the sorority leader started bringing her boyfriend over and having sex in the middle of the open format dorm room in the middle of the day. They did this in front of a clear plate glass window, so Pandora's neighbors across the way had to buy each too. When Pandora and her other roommates confronted her about this, the evil roommate brushed it off, saying it was okay because they were quiet, as if that somehow made them invisible. It was the worst semester Pandora ever had. Number 1 was submitted by me. The most frustrating thing a roommate of mine has ever done has just been chuck out some of my food. I was at university and living on a shoestring budget, and what that sometimes meant was that some food would stay in the fridge for maybe a few days longer than it should have. I'll always remember coming home one time and just really wanting a lasagna I'd made a couple of days earlier and finding it in the bin. And I was absolutely devastated, and I never forgave him for that one lasagna. Jake, if you're out there, lasagna. A huge thanks for the folks over in our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What's the worst temper tantrum you've ever seen? Let us know in the Reddit page link below and you might be featured in a future countdown. Well, that's it for this countdown, but catch you guys next time.
Talking to someone, and while she was talking, the boy was looking around for a bathroom. He then saw a shop that was selling training toilets for kids who were just learning how to get to the toilet. The boy ran up to one of them, pulling down his trousers, sat down and took a crap in public.
Oh, this is Teddy.
Hi, Teddy. Oh, you're a hugger, huh?
I'm a bear. Say hello to Teddy, a new treat baked to perfection using quality ingredients like flour, milk, and eggs. Discover Teddy Soft Bakes.
Planet Dolan. From why we kiss to which species has the shortest lifespan, we answer 10 of your most burning questions about life.
Hey there, my name is Melissa. I'll be reading out the questions and answers.
I'm Danger Dolan, and I'm here to blow your mind with truth.
Metal Max 1991 asks, what would happen to a person if they were inside the Hadron Super Collider while it was active?
Their brains would fly out of their skull. Planet Dolan.
What was the mysterious Apple game console that failed? What company invested in doomed barcode reading technology? Here are 15 pieces of groundbreaking technology that didn't have the impact they were hoping for. I'm Melissa, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 15, Microsoft Kin. You may not remember the Microsoft Kin because it bombed extremely quickly. These stripped-down smartphones were meant to be budget options for teens, with a focus on social networking. Turns out, though, teens weren't huge fans of a smartphone that doesn't allow apps or games and forces a two-year contract through Verizon. Number 14, Samsung Galaxy Note 7. Somehow, after about a decade of making quality smartphones that challenged the mighty iPhone, Samsung took a step backwards and produced a device that explodes on its user's face. Surprisingly, this didn't go over well with users, who opted for devices that produced a bit less shrapnel. People can be so picky about their tech sometimes. Number 13, Nokia N-Gage. To be fair, Nokia had the right idea with the N-Gage, and actually sold 3 million units in its lifetime. Cell phones were taking off, and handheld gaming devices were big, so they tried to combine the two. Problem was, in trying to create a good phone gaming device hybrid, they forgot to make it a good phone, or a good gaming device, or to actually give it any good games. Number 12, IBM PC Junior. Back in the early 1980s, IBM was a leader of PC technology in offices around the world, but they wanted to get IBM PCs into people's homes. Enter the IBM PC Junior, the stripped-down version of the full-size IBM PC that was intended to do mostly the same stuff, but at a fraction of the price and size. What IBM actually delivered was a device that did less stuff for more money. Less than a year later, Apple released the Macintosh, a cultural icon that did everything the PC Junior was supposed to do. Number 11, Amstrad Emailer. Sir Alan Sugar will be forever remembered as the man who fanatically went down with the ship trying to sell a landline telephone that sends emails. Today, having a phone that sends emails isn't crazy at all, but a phone that charges you money for something known as an email call? That's crazy. Despite a lack of sales, profits, interest, or any other measure of success, Amstrad developed 3 generations of the emailer, none of which improved on the concept. Number 10, Microsoft Zune. The Zune did nothing wrong. No, really. Aside from some early software bugs, it was an effective and decent gadget. Its biggest problem was that it was trying to take market share away from the iPod at a time the iPod was absolutely untouchable. It went up against the juggernaut and got immediately crushed. Number 9, the Ouya. Hey kids, would you like to pay $99 for a home console that lets you play games you'd normally get on your cell phone for free? And would you like to play those games in a controller so terrible, you'd actually rather use your phone as a controller? Great! Go back in time and buy the Ouya on Kickstarter. And don't say I didn't warn you. 8, Google Glass. Not everything Google touches turns to gold. Some of them turn into Google Glass. It seems the world wasn't ready for the dumb-looking glasses that cost $1,500 and allowed Google to move its data collection empire into the real world. Despite weak sales and a general sense of discomfort, Google has threatened to re-release Google Glass when it's ready. No telling if we'll be ready for it, though. Number 7, HD DVD. Toward the end of the last decade, when terms like HD and 1080p came into our lives, there was a battle between new competing video formats. The contestants were Blu-ray and HD DVD. One of them still exists. The other halted production in 2008. Toshiba lost nearly $1 billion supporting HD DVD before discontinuing the format. Number 6, Segway. Steve Jobs was certainly a visionary who changed the world, but he was also the guy who said the Segway would be as big a deal as the PC. The Segway was supposed to revolutionize the way people get around in their daily lives, but now it's just a visual gag for making fun of mall cops and gimmick tours. Number 5. Betamax. Betamax was basically the HD DVDs of the 80s. An arguably just as good or better alternative to VHS, Sony's Betamax format suffered from a fatal flaw: a 1-hour runtime limit. Since VHS tapes could hold 2 hours instead of 1, most entire movies fit on a single tape, and it was more readily embraced by retailers and consumers alike. Number 4. Apple Pippin. Did you know that Apple and Bandai co-developed and released a dedicated video game console in 1995 with a wireless controller? Yeah, neither did anyone else, including most game developers. Among other things, a $599 price tag at launch, twice that of the Sony PlayStation, doomed the console despite some ahead-of-its-time console features like a built-in modem for online play. Number 3. Nintendo Virtual Boy. Nintendo's most famous console flop saw less than 24 games released before it's being discontinued. VR has long been a fascination for the video game industry, but the Virtual Boy is one of the first in a long line of attempts to give people headaches. It may have been worth rethinking the red LED on black background motive as well. Number 2. Apple Newton. A lot of tech failures are basically the result of a company having a good idea, but introducing it before the public is ready, or before the existing technology can actually make it useful. That's basically where the Apple Newton ended up, as an Apple tablet that was bulky, unwieldy, and didn't do enough to justify carrying it around everywhere. The Newton wasn't exactly terrible. Many consider it to have been good technology that was just mismanaged, but it's still remembered as a colossal flop with a troubled development. Number 1. QCat Barcode Reader. Okay, that thing I just said about technology flops being good ideas with bad timing? That doesn't apply here. Sometimes people just try to solve problems that don't exist. Here's what you're supposed to do with the QCat barcode reader. Take the scanner and scan a specially marked barcode. Then plug your device into your computer and whoa! It takes you to a website! Nobody was ever able to explain how this was supposed to be easier than typing a link into your browser, but Wired and Businessweek bought in and started printing QCat codes in their magazines. What makes this even more embarrassing is that Digital Convergence, the company behind QCat, shipped huge amounts of these devices out for free in the hopes of getting people on board. Naturally, this made the whole experiment even more expensive, but not any more successful. What do you think was the biggest technology flop? Let us know in the comments, and we'll pin our favorite to the top. That's all for now, guys. I'll catch you next week.
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix, you can create your own professional website. Choose from hundreds of templates. Whether you're a small business owner or an artist, we've got some.
Planet Dolan.
From role-playing in front of your manager to sniffing your dog's poop, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the weirdest things we've been caught doing. I'm Melissa, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Ultraman1. One day, Spinal Palm accidentally went to class without putting on any deodorant. It was a really hot summer's day, so he sat in the back row with his arms glued to his sides, hoping that no one would find out he was stinky. After a while, Spinal Palm's mind started wandering. He became really curious about what his sweaty armpits would taste like. So, while being as stealthy as possible, he pulled his shirt to his mouth and started licking the armpit. His teacher immediately caught him and said,
"Hey, Spinal Palm, does that taste good?"
Before he knew it, the whole class was laughing at him, and he developed a reputation as an armpit-licking weirdo. Number 9 was submitted by 9Kirby99. When Dolan was 6 years old, he and his brother were messing around with a bunch of balloons and an air pump. They were having heaps of fun blowing up the balloons and throwing them around. Then, Dolan got the brilliant idea to shove 2 balloons under his shirt. His brother recognized that this was pure genius and did it too. Just at this moment, their mother walked past, saw that they were pretending to have boobs, and grabbed her video camera. She filmed them dancing up against each other and rubbing their inflated chests. This footage is lying in wait, ready to embarrass them at the next family get-together. Number 8 was submitted by Grunt Spartan 500. One day, a teenage slapped ham took his dog for a walk around the neighborhood. They were on their way home when the dog decided to take a shit on the neighbor's lawn. Slapped Ham was annoyed, but being the responsible dog owner he was, he bent down to pick it up. While he was down there, Slapped Ham had a complete brain malfunction and started sniffing his dog's poop. Of course, his neighbors picked this exact moment to come out of their house. They looked at Slapped Ham with disgust and shouted,
"Hey kid, are you retarded?"
Slapped Ham was so embarrassed. He hasn't been able to live this down and now walks his dog over on the other side of the street. Number 7 was submitted by T. Busta. Tolop had started a new job and hadn't made any friends yet. One afternoon during his shift, he really needed to pee, so he ducked into the men's room. No one was around, so, as he stepped up to the urinal, he started singing the old Batman theme song. Only his version went,
Na 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 pissing, pissing, pissing.
Just as he finished, Tolop heard a door open and saw one of his new coworkers coming out of a cubicle. Luckily, the guy didn't make a big deal about it. He said,
Hey, we all do weird things when we're alone.
It turned out to be a pretty good icebreaker. Number 6 was submitted by Top Hat and Goggles. When Nixium was in college, he and his friends played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Nixium was a dungeon master and was working on a new villain for the group. One day, during a slow shift at work, Nixium began role-playing as the new villain. The character was demonic and had crazy eyes and a really deep voice. Nixium checked that no customers were around and said,
"Foolish adventurers, you have sealed your doom in my unholy temple, and now you die."
Of course, Nixium hadn't noticed that this manager was standing right behind him. The manager asked what the hell he was doing, and Nixium had to explain his secret hobby. It became an embarrassing little inside joke between them. Number 5 was submitted by Illumaleni. Pringle isn't proud of this. One day, he was using his computer while eating a bag of Doritos. His mom was sleeping in the other room, and Pringle figured it was safe to watch a bit of porn. For some reason, Pringle continued eating his Doritos while he was jerking off, and dust and crumbs were all over his junk. He lost track of time and didn't notice when his mom came in to talk to him. She saw the cheesy, Dorito-y mess he had made and screamed. She wasn't horrified about the porn or masturbation, but was deeply disturbed that he was doing it with Doritos. Number 4 was submitted by Redneck Reptile 180. Not many people know this, but Hellbent loves his pet reptiles. One day, he wanted to do something nice for them, so he cooked up the raw crickets in some delicious bacon grease. This was such a hit with his pets that Hellbent wanted to try it for himself. He cooked up a big batch of the crunchy insects and started chowing down. When Hellbent's mom came home, she saw her son eating disgusting bugs and shouted, "What on earth are you doing?" Hellbent got a big lecture about why it's not okay to cook insects on his mom's stove, and he was grounded for a week. Number 3 was submitted by I Love Bubby Bear 777. When Shima was in elementary school, she loved to secretly eat paper. She'd done this for years and had never gotten caught. But one day, while Shima was enjoying some papery goodness, she noticed that one of her classmates was looking at her weirdly. The classmate asked what Shima was doing, and Shima said, "Nothing," with a mouthful of paper. The kids ended up telling their teacher, who called Shima's parents. When Shima got home, she got a huge lecture about why we don't eat paper. Shima was super embarrassed and had to slowly kick her delicious habit. Number 2 was submitted by Breelys 12. Doopy has a very active imagination. In private, she enjoys doing strange stuff like pretending to have seizures and flapping her arms and squawking like a bird. One day, Doopy's brother came home from work and caught her at a particularly weird moment. She was laying on her back, moaning like a dying cat. She was drooling, her eyes were dilated, and she was slowly waving her arms and legs in the air. At first, Doopy's brother thought she was on drugs, but then he realized that she was just weird. He was deeply disturbed by this and said it would have actually been less awkward if he'd caught her masturbating. And for number 1, I'm going to tell you about the weirdest thing I've been caught doing. A few years ago, I was auditioning for the role of a witch. This was a voice acting role, and it required me to have the best evil laugh possible. So I would practice it at any opportunity I would get before I submitted my recording. It kind of went something like this. So yeah, you can imagine why I was pretty dang embarrassed when my teacher and a few of my classmates walked in and heard this. They thought I was crazy. Should have done this from the privacy of my own home instead of a damn classroom. Anyway, live and learn. Huge thanks for all the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What's the dumbest way you've ever asked someone out? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. Catch you guys next time.
Boy, did you guys know that Tyler made a video game? Go check it out, it's linked on screen down below. Planet Dolan.
From pretending to be a real-life Iron Man to convincing your sister she got into Hogwarts, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the best lie you've ever convinced a kid is true. I'm Doopy, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Ding Dong Doom Guy. One day, Andy was feeling creative and decided to prank her little sister who was really into Harry Potter and always wanted to go to Hogwarts. Andy got out her pens and pencils and started drawing an official Hogwarts invitation. It had a stamp and everything. Andy finally finished the letter and she had to admit it looked good. She snuck outside and put the letter into the letterbox and waited. Later on, her sister was told to get the mail. She was gone for 2 minutes, then she came running up and screaming to her mom. She was shaking the letter and yelling at the top of her voice, "Mom, Mom, I knew I was a witch!" Andy will never forget the look on her face, how happy and thrilled she was to have her dream come true. Her sister rushed into her room to pack while Andy's mom just looked at her. Go tell her now, and then you're doing all the chores for a week. Andy told her sister, and she still hasn't forgiven her. Number 9 was submitted by Hipster Cicero. When Zaraganbo was a kid, he had a heart condition and he had to wear a Holter monitor sometimes. It was a gray box taped to his chest that had a bunch of wires coming out of it. When he was at school, some kids his age and younger saw some of the wires near his collarbone and asked what they were for. Zaraganba managed to convince the kids that he was a real-life Iron Man. The monitor was like Jarvis, and if the monitor came out of his chest, he would die. He also told them that the wires gave him super strength. Since everyone knew he wanted to be a medical student, they thought Zaraganba was being legit. He still hasn't told them the truth, so let's hope they aren't watching this. Number 8 was submitted by GGGGGG Gingerbread. I think I got that. GGGGGG Gingerbread. When Dolan was 13 and his brother was 6 or 7, he watched a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. One of the Freddy Krueger's favorite words was, of course, horror. One day, Dolan was in his room watching one of the movies, and his little brother walked in and watched some of it with him. Thankfully, the ending was pretty tame. Once the movie ended, he turned to Dolan and asked,
"What's a whore?"
Not really sure if a 6-year-old could comprehend the topic. The movie ended, he turned to Dolan and asked,
"What's a whore?"
Not really sure if a 6-year-old could comprehend the topic. Dolan hastily said, "It's a type of British cookie." He went on asking questions, and Dolan kept supplying answers, finally convincing him that a whore was, in fact, a cookie. He thought he had dodged a bullet until one day, as they were walking into Walmart, Dolan's little brother asked their mom very casually,
"Can we get some whores?"
Number 7 was submitted by Spoof the Wombat. When Pringle was at school, there was this kid they called the Aura due to his bad smell. Pringle and his friends kept talking about the Aura around this kid, and he asked what the Aura was. To quickly cover up what he'd said, Pringle answered that it was the final boss in a game called Beast Hunting Squad. Of course, this game didn't exist. He started asking questions like how many levels the game has, what the bosses were, and what some character moves were. He even asked what console it was on. Out of haste, Pringle said the Atari. The Aura didn't believe him and wanted a picture of the game. Pringle said that if he took a picture of the game or tried to tape it, the camera would shatter. He kept asking more questions, and in the end, he fell for it. Pringle felt so bad about it that he wrote a 16-page long instruction book on how to play it and gave it to the kid. The book included gameplay, controls, secret rooms, bosses, movesets, items, AI dialogue, and even Easter eggs. Even when the Aura couldn't find it online, he believed Pringle. To this day, he still asks how his playthrough is going. Number 6 was submitted by Marcos the King 13. One day, Nixium's cousin and his little brother came around to his house to play. They watched one of the Chucky movies, with a doll that comes alive and kills people. His little cousin got so scared he didn't stop following them around. Nixium and his cousin took one of his sister's dolls and changed it to look like Chucky, and placed it out the window by the kitchen. Before they let his little cousin go to the kitchen, they told him that Chucky was real, and he had called Nixium saying that he was coming for him. The little cousin was so scared he went to the kitchen to get a knife, then saw the Chucky doll at the window, and screamed until he fainted. He never liked dolls until eventually they told him it was a prank. Number 5 was submitted by Vignish 2002. When Hellbent was in the 5th grade, during January, he told his friend that the world was going to end soon. He asked Hellbent when it was going to happen, and he replied, on February 30th. He believed it, so Hellbent told him it's a secret and not to tell anyone, knowing word was going to spread around the school. In February, the lie even reached other classes. Everyone was scared, and a wimpy guy told a teacher about it. They had to then convince everybody that there is no February 30th. That year, Hellbent had his name in the school magazine as the naughtiest boy in school. Number 4 was submitted by Checkered Stag. When Spinal Palm was in primary school, around 8 years old, everyone in his class noticed he had birthmarks covering most of the left side of his body. Spinal Palm thought that everyone had the same birthmarks, but after all the questions, he realized he was different. Not wanting to look stupid for not knowing what they were, he told everyone that the marks came from bees stinging him after he took an entire hive by himself. He didn't actually think anyone would believe him, but to his surprise, the story spread around the school like wildfire. Even the teachers believed his lie. Students would ask to hear the story over and over again. A few years passed, and Spinal Palm had moved to a secondary school that no one from his old school attended, until one day a new student started and recognized him. During break, he asked him how his bee stings were. Not wanting to carry on the lie, Spinal Palm just told him the truth. The expression on his face was similar to that of a child being told that Santa wasn't real. Number 3 was submitted by Flaming Penny. Once, Snoopy was babysitting a 6-year-old who was really into superheroes and wished that he could fly. The kid kept asking if he had superpowers, and Snoopy told him to believe and stay determined, the usual little lessons we try to instill in children. Now that the kid thought he could fly, he snuck up to the 2nd floor while Snoopy was getting a drink and tried to jump off of the roof. He ended up crashing into a tree and was stuck there until the fire department came and got him down. Luckily for her, the kid escaped with only minor cuts and bruises. Number 2 was submitted by Tris02. When Sid was in 5th grade, he had younger neighbors who were in 1st and 2nd grade. Across the street from them was a 10-foot cliff. Sid convinced his neighbors that a very old man named Charlie lived in the rocks. He imagined Charlie looked a bit like Gollum, had yellow eyes, pointed fangs, and was the size of a baby or toddler. Whenever the coyotes would howl at night, Sid told him it was Charlie singing a very sad song because he was lonely. According to Sid, Charlie was also thousands of years old. The neighbors were terrified of the cliff. He said each full moon, Charlie kidnapped children to stay with him forever and ever because he was so lonely. He even convinced them that Charlie took his cousin too, and they were even more scared. Once, Sid pretended to go missing, then ran out of the woods above the cliff screaming. He told them Charlie tried to get him. The neighbors then told their mom why they were afraid to go outside. Their mom had a fun talk with Sid, and they still laugh about it today. They even have their own fake currency, Charlie Bucks. Number 1 was submitted by me. So, I wasn't the liar, I was more of the lie. As a kid, I was very gullible, and I believed everything everyone said for some reason. I also tried to fool people who were dumber than me, but for the most part, I was the victim. So I have two instances. One was my best friend when I was 8 years old. He tried to tell me he had a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament that he would hold underneath his house, and I believed it for such a long time. And I would ask him every day to show me because that's what we had in common. Our thing was Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. So I begged him every day to show me, and he always had excuses like, oh man, it's under construction right now and shit like that. And I believed him for the longest time, even after he moved away. The second instance was I believed wholeheartedly that I was adopted because my sister said so. I was the only kid who really took after my dad, so I had blonde hair and I was really short and kind of stubby as a kid, and I looked way different than my sisters. So I honestly believed them when they would tease me and say that I was adopted. I even once took all of the drawers out of my dresser, put them outside, and told my family and my other family that I didn't want to live there anymore. And my dad, being the hard ass that he was, told me, well, go on then. And I didn't know where to go, so I just sat outside the porch and just cried for like 2 hours. Huge thanks to the folks over in our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. I know we already asked some of you this question, but we want even more of your awesome stories. So, what's the weirdest thing you've done to impress your crush? Let us know in the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Misheard and thought Ramona was asking to eat her out. She realized the confusion and quickly added, at a restaurant. Geez, I know I'm bisexual, but I still have standards. Luckily, her friend had a good sense of humor and they both laughed it off.
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix, you can create your own professional website. Choose from hundreds of templates. Whether you're a small